Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for CalRecycle's October public meeting. I'm CalRecycle Communications Director Maria West. Today's live update is designed to serve Californians with concise, plain language information about CalRecycle programs and actions. We are simulcasting today's meeting in both English and Spanish as we work to further expand access to CalRecycle actions and decision-making processes. You can find a link to the Spanish broadcast by clicking on the orange meeting notice at the top of the calrecycle.ca.gov page. Then clicking on the broadcast link under meeting details. We welcome your feedback as we continue to improve our public meetings. As a quick reminder, today you can submit a public comment in one of two ways. If you're here in person, you can use one of our meeting room microphones. If you're joining us remotely, you can submit a comment using the public comments portal. Just go to CalRecycle's homepage again, that's calrecycle.ca.gov, and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of the homepage. There you'll also find a link to today's agenda, the presentation slides, and our live webcast. We'll address public comments a little later. Our first agenda item today is the director's report. Director Rachel Mackey-Wagner joins us now with some important updates. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Maria, and good morning to all of you joining us in person and over the web. We are so pleased to be with you here in the middle of October to give you an update on much of the progress that we have on several important decision items that will be coming up before us this fall around our carpet stewardship program, our farmer sharp stewardship program, and in addition, giving you an update on what the legislature has passed in September and the governor signed in September, that we will start the implementation at the beginning of the year. We have so much going on here at CalRecycle and don't want to lose sight on the important mission that we have had over the last 30 years as we embark on the evolution towards a circular economy here in California. The first thing we're going to hear about today is an update on our debris removal program. And again, as I mentioned last month, very pleased to announce that our 2021 operation has successfully completed, and we are embarking on our 2022 operation. So a quick update on that, and then we will hear about the legislation that the governor signed in early September. And as we embark in 2023, we will be doing workshops and other meetings specifically on legislative implementation. So please stand by. Each month we will give updates on where we are on legislation and implementation and how you can engage in that process. The governor signed 14 bills in September directly related to CalRecycle's work. And so it is really important that our stakeholders engage with us as we begin that implementation process. Everything from the landmark SB 54, as that becomes law on January 1, we will be starting a public process in the early part of the year to engage in implementation on that, as well as some of the other pieces of legislation from the expansion and reforms to the bottle bill, to changes in our SABRAC program. So there is a lot going on here at CalRecycle. We are very excited to engage with all of you as we implement the new legislation, but maintain our very strong oversight and engagement on our existing mandates as well. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thanks, Rachel. Survivors of California's most recent destructive wildfires are starting the recovery process with the help of CalRecycle and our partner agencies through the state's wildfire cleanup program. Since 2007, the program has helped over 23,000 families clear their properties of more than 7 million tons of dangerous ash and wildfire debris. Before we get an update on the current operations, here's a progress report from a Placer County family who joined the state-managed cleanup program 1 year ago. They have made incredible progress on their rebuilding.
If there's resources available that aren't going to take money out of your pocket, you should take advantage of them.
Liz Porter and her family lost their home last fall in the river fire. Now, their new home is almost done, but we stopped by to ask, why did you decide to enroll in the state-funded wildfire cleanup?
My understanding is it's like a $50,000 to $75,000 proposition to clear a property. Our coverage was $5,000, so that would have been a significant chunk that we would have had to pay.
Like thousands of survivors, Liz and her husband Jamie needed every dollar to rebuild. And like many, they discovered that insurance didn't cover the total cost of private debris removal. The state's safety standards, including air monitoring, soil testing, ensures the community's air and water and land are safe during the cleanup and when families return to their properties.
If we hadn't had CalRecycle and all of that sort of come in and assist with that, it absolutely made a difference.
A special thank you to the Porter family for sharing their story with us. The state's program has no out-of-pocket costs to the survivors, so it actually helps them tremendously, even if they don't have any coverage. So now Deputy Director Tina Walker joins us with a status report on CalRecycle debris remover operations for this year. Good morning, Tina.
Hi, Maria. Thank you. As Director Wagner mentioned, CalRecycle recently completed the 2021 Dixie Caldor debris removal operation with the return of over 2,000 parcels to their counties and owners for redevelopment. Yet the work continues as the DEDRO team has been providing direct technical assistance to Mariposa County in support of their locally led Oak Fire disaster debris removal operation. The county has leveraged the state's master service agreement for field assessment and monitoring consultants and our pre-qualified bidders list for disaster debris and hazard tree removal services. We'll be with them until the end of their operations, which is targeted for late November this year. Last week, consultants and staff deployed to Siskiyou County to kick off the state's disaster debris removal operations following the McKinney, Mill, and Mountain fires. 211 residents were destroyed and an estimated 5,000 trees damaged in this siege, including Lincoln Heights, a neighborhood of Weed, California. Site assessments are now underway and debris removal and tree felling crews will be in the operation field in a little over a week. Disaster debris and removal and how these operations are staffed and managed has changed a lot since our first mission from Cal OES back in 2007. Personnel were once resourced from throughout the department, rotating out of their designated assignments to serve as contract managers and operational staff for as long as a year. But the frequency of climate-fueled events resulting in a near year-round wildland fire response and recovery mission required a dedicated team of subject matter experts assigned to contract development and management, operational monitoring and documentation, planning and tactics, as well as operational safety and environmental compliance to ensure the expeditious completion of this work with a high level of fiscal accountability. Our team DEDRO, which stands for Disaster Debris Removal and Recovery Operations, covers all the bases: project engineering, operational safety, project management, field operations, and cultural and environmental protection, ready to forward deploy to communities devastated by disaster to oversee operations and help survivors return home.
Thanks, Tina. California advanced major circular economy reforms this legislative session to take on climate and trash pollution. Here's a quick look at some of the new laws bringing California closer to a fully circular, renewable economy.
91% of Californians are concerned about plastic and other trash overwhelming our neighborhoods and oceans. The solution to this trash pollution is to cut waste, recycle, and reuse more products and materials.
Innovation is what California does best.
California is taking steps to build the nation's first circular use economy. In 2022, lawmakers approved new laws and funding to design waste out of products and create new industries and green jobs by collecting, recycling, and remanufacturing more materials.
Instead of landfilling our waste, we can collect it and make it into new products.
Turning our trash into cash for our state, California set the nation's toughest rules to cut single-use plastics by requiring all packaging must be recyclable or compostable, and 65% must be recycled by 2032. Lawmakers also made the biggest reforms to the bottle bill in a decade, adding wine and liquor bottles into the system to provide needed material for new products, while adding redemption sites for more Californians. Legislators and Governor Newsom also passed new laws to recycle battery-embedded products like many cell phones, as well as the more than 822 million loose batteries used in California each year to prevent fires that cause millions in damages. They will instead be recycled for scarce raw materials like lithium for California-made products. Another new law will innovate fabric recycling to cut the 1.2 million tons of textiles dumped in landfills every year. Leading the nation in building a circular economy that mines our trash instead of our planet, with endless raw materials for generations to come.
Deputy Director Aaron Rodriguez is joining us today in the Byron Chair Auditorium with some of the new laws passed by the legislature and signed by Governor Newsom. Good morning, Aaron.
Thanks, Maria. As noted, just last month, Governor Newsom and the legislature worked on and signed 14 bills related to CalRecycle. The following is the CalRecycle 2022 legislative update. So we just heard SB 54, authored by Senator Allen, is a stewardship program for single-use packaging. It requires extended producer responsibility program and phases recyclable and compostable single-use packaging and single-use plastic foodware rules with 65% recycled by 2032. SB 1046, authored by Senator Eggman, requires stores to provide only compostable bag or recycled paper bags for pre-checkout bags for produce, bulk items, and bulk items. SB 1013, which we also just heard about, is the beverage container recycling program modernization. Updates include adding wine and distilled spirits to the program, providing grants to collect, process, and transport used glass beverage containers, eliminates options for retailers to pay a $100 fee in unserved zones, new dealer cooperatives for convenient beverage container redemptions, new recycled glass market development payment for recycled glass quality, and CalRecycle can require distributors and processors to report electronically. SB 38, authored by Senator Wachowski, is glass beverage container reforms. CalRecycle must study and develop a process to improve the quality of glass materials collected through the beverage container recycling program and prohibits processors from using cash to pay for empty beverage containers. SB 1215, authored by Senator Newman, is our first of the battery bills, so adds most battery-embedded products to the e-waste program, and this greatly expands the existing covered electronic waste program by adding most battery-embedded products such as cell phones. The second is AB 2240, authored by Assemblymember Irwin, that creates a extended producer responsibility program to manage the safe collection and recycling of most loose batteries. CalRecycle and the Department of Toxic Substance Control will collaborate on oversight. SB 45, authored by Senator Portantino, directs CalRecycle to support local jurisdictions to meet organic waste reduction requirements established in SB 1383. AB 1985, authored by Assemblymember Robert Rivas, phases in SB 1383 rules for local governments to procure a population-based quantity of compost, mulch, or biogas, and extends exemptions for rural communities. AB 661, authored by Assemblymember Bennett, this is our SABRAC rule, and this strengthens rules for state agencies to purchase recycled products to meet California's climate and circular economy targets and updates every 3 years to the state agency Buy Recycle campaign websites on rules, recycled products, and reporting. SB 1181, authored by Senator Hueso, authorizes a digital waste tracking system to replace the paper system, adding a uniform format for data reports from waste tire transporters and storage facilities. SB 1187, which you also had heard about, requires CalRecycle to establish a 3-year pilot project with garment manufacturers in Los Angeles and Ventura County to test fabric recycling innovations with the goal of a pilot project to innovate fabric recycling. AB 1857, authored by Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, removes the 10% credit that jurisdictions use transformation can apply towards their 50% landfill diversion mandate, and upon an appropriation require new CalRecycle grants to support their transition to source reduction, recycling, and composting programs. SB 978 by Senator McGuire formalizes CalRecycle's authority to pre-qualify debris removal contractors before wildfires start and develops a skilled workforce to help rebuild communities. And finally, AB 649, authored by Assemblymember Bennett, creates a CalRecycle Office of Environmental Justice and Tribal Relations to maximize support for disadvantaged and low-income communities, California Native American tribes, and farm workers within CalRecycle programs, policies, and initiatives. As the director noted, we will be continuing the legislative updates and look forward to engaging with you. Thank you, Maria.
So as you heard from Erin, there was a lot that was adopted by the legislature and the governor in the fall this year. And we will have this list of bills on our website and available. And in future meetings, please, if you have any questions in terms of implementation of this legislation, please do come forward during our public meetings to ask your questions. And as I noted, I don't think any of these bills contained an urgency clause, so they all become law as of January 1st. So they are not currently on the books until January 1st. And as we roll out implementation, we will be engaging through our public meeting here and additional meetings on implementation on each of these pieces of legislation. So this is a great opportunity. If you have questions or generalized questions about implementation, please do feel free to bring them here to our public meeting, but we will be having, especially on our larger initiatives, specific public engagement processes for implementation. And with that, I will turn it back over to Maria. And thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Rachel. Now for an update on previous circular economy reforms to clear up confusion among Californians about what is and isn't recyclable. Deputy Director Zoe Heller joins us now. Good morning, Zoe.
Good morning, Maria. CalRecycle has some new resources to share and some key dates reminders about the implementation process for California's Truth in Labeling law. You may remember that SB 343 passed in 2021 to promote truth in environmental advertising. It's focused on the chasing arrow symbol on products and packaging. The law prohibits false or misleading recycling claims. While CalRecycle will not determine the recyclability of products or packaging, the department is required to take on some specific actions to shed some light on this issue. First, we're going to conduct a material characterization study to see what types of materials and contaminants are coming through select material processing facilities. Last month, I talked about the waste characterization study. So this study is different in that we're actually going to be sampling at material recovery facilities and transfer processors to get a better sense of how materials are being collected in these systems, separated and baled. And we will be publishing that information for you all to review. We're also going to be collecting new information on our recycling and disposal reporting system to identify recovered materials and pinpoint how they were collected from consumers. We will be publishing this information publicly as well, so that this information will be available for anyone that's interested in understanding how they can comply with 343. CalRecycle also just published a new SB 343 website, and I encourage you to take a look at it. It's incredibly helpful in understanding the various responsibilities of the department and others as it relates to 343, and includes some key dates and timelines and implementation information. And you can also sign up for the SB 343 Material Characterization Study listserv for notifications and upcoming contract solicitation. All right, so moving over to 1383, jurisdictions across the state continue to work hard and fully implement their food and yard waste collection programs for residents and businesses to continue to fight climate change. Over the next year, CalRecycle's local assistance staff will be meeting with all jurisdictions to review SB 1383 program implementation and provide needed compliance assistance. Also, next month, the department is going to start hosting a monthly webinar that will be focused on 1383 and will provide opportunities for us to provide information on new tools and resources, and also for jurisdictions across the state to share information about what's working for them, how implementation is going, and what challenges they're coming across. We'll be sending out some dates, save the dates and details in the coming weeks. Make sure you're signed up for our CalRecycle short-lived climate pollutant listserv, as you can receive more updates about tools, resources, webinars, and other information that you might find valuable in implementation of 1383.
Thank you, Zoe. Next on the agenda, new recycling projects will keep the equivalent of 1.5 million waste tires out of our landfills and off of our streets. We have those grant announcements right after this short video on how California is turning problem materials into new products.
California produces more than 55 million waste tires a year.
Tires are built to be durable, to be safe for us to drive on.
Up until a few decades ago, piles of illegally dumped tires polluted our state, sometimes catching fire, burning deep inside the pile.
Because tires have such a low ability to transfer heat, once a tire gets hot enough to burn, it becomes difficult to cool down.
In 1998, an employee clearing weeds at a property illegally storing about 7 million tires in San Joaquin County sparked one of the largest tire fires in our nation's history. Large plumes of toxic black smoke from the Tracy tire fire released dangerous chemicals like cyanide and carbon monoxide while it burned for more than 2 years.
It was really a wake-up call to California that something had to be done.
California strengthened its decade-old Tire Recycling Act in 2000 to put waste tires to better use.
Our role is to find new ways to recycle tires to prevent them being illegally dumped or tossed into landfills.
California now tracks the storage and movement of used tires and supports recycling and market development to encourage the use of products made from recycled tires.
CalRecycle has a lot of tire-derived product. We have an online catalog which shows what a waste tire can become.
CalRecycle's Tire Incentive Program provides financial incentives to eligible manufacturers that make new products from old tires.
Two of the products that my team promotes include rubberized asphalt concrete, rag, and tire-derived aggregate TDA.
TDA, used as vibration mitigation under light rail, has saved the state millions of dollars while it absorbs sound and allows for a smoother ride through neighborhoods.
With TDA, you are actually solving engineering problems.
Rubberized asphalt concrete blends recycled tires and asphalt to create a more cost-effective, durable, and environmentally friendly alternative to traditional paving materials. Other tire-derived products use ground-up recycled tires mixed with other materials to create products like flooring, roofing, traffic control devices, and pathways.
In a lot of ways, waste tire products can outperform conventional material, and also it could save money.
In 2021, these innovative solutions helped California recycle more than 19 million waste tires, or about 35%, into new recycled products. California has made great strides in finding better uses for tires, but with 16.6% or 9.2 million tires being burned for tire-derived fuel, either within the state or shipped overseas, primarily to Asia, and more than 24 million tires still buried in landfills every year.
That means our work is not completed yet.
There's more work on the road ahead.
Now we'll turn back to Deputy Director Zoe Heller with CalRecycle's latest tire grant awards.
Today, I'm announcing the approval of $2.2 million in grant awards to 7 California businesses under our Tire Incentive Program. The awardees are using recycled tires to remanufacture things like roofing materials, traffic cones, signage bases, accessibility ramps, and flooring. The program provides incentive payments to businesses that use recycled crumb rubber from waste tires in products or as a substitute for virgin rubber, plastic, or other materials and products in order to increase demand for crumb rubber. The awardees are set to turn 15 million pounds of old tires into valuable new products. That's the equivalent of keeping nearly 1.3 million tires out of landfills. We're also awarding $184,000 from CalRecycle's Tire-Derived Aggregate Grant Program to landfill gas collection projects in Riverside County. The county expects to use more than 250,000 waste tires to install 2 horizontal gas collection wells at Badlands Landfill in Moreno Valley and Lamb Canyon Landfill in Beaumont. The draft 5-year tire plan allocates $750,000 for the TDA program in fiscal year 22-23. If your local government is doing stormwater infiltration galleries, landslide repair, or other public works projects that need lightweight aggregate, this program covers the cost of the aggregate and associated engineering. Feel free to reach out to us for more information on that program. Be sure to sign up for CalRecycle's Tire Program Listserv or check our public notices to register for 2 exciting upcoming tire program events. CalRecycle will host the 2022 Tire Conference at Sacramento State on November 2nd and 3rd. The two-day hybrid conference covers market trends, emerging technologies, and it's a great networking opportunity. You can check out the agenda on our website. On November 30th, CalRecycle will hold a hybrid workshop to discuss the biannual update to the Waste Tire Recycling Management Program's 5-year tire plan. We'll discuss proposed activities and budgets covering the next 5 fiscal years. We hope you can join us at these events. So next, I'm going to talk about some recycling market development zone loans. 14 new jobs and an additional 10,000 tons of plastic will be kept out of our landfills thanks to a recycling facility upgrade in Turlock. CalRecycle approved a $5 million recycling market development zone loan to Peninsula Plastics Recycling for new equipment to remove contaminants from PET bales. The upgrades will improve the quality of the PET pellets so they can be recycled into new beverage containers. RMDZ loans are available for any CalRecycle business that wants to create or expand local infrastructure. Since the start of the RMDZ program, CalRecycle has supported over 213 recycling businesses with $175 million in loans to turn material into new products and new jobs. All right, back over to you, Maria.
Thanks, Zoe. Applications for the recycling market development zone loans and greenhouse gas reduction loans are always open. Grant funding is available for various tire reuse projects, illegal dump site cleanups, and community composting projects. Check out CalRecycle's funding page for a full list of open grants and application deadlines. As a quick reminder, you can submit a public comment on an agenda item in 2 ways. If you're here in person, you can use one of our meeting room microphones at the end of the meeting today. Or if you're joining us remotely, you can submit a comment using our public comments portal. Just go to CalRecycle's homepage at calrecycle.ca.gov and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of that homepage. There you'll find a link to today's agenda, the presentation slides, and our live webcast. We'll address public comments a little later. Next on the agenda, new updates on the rollout of the state's latest stewardship program for sharps and pharmaceuticals, and new data from California's Carpet Stewardship Organization. Deputy Director Zoe Heller is here again for those items.
Today we have 5 items relating to the Pharmaceutical and Sharps Waste Stewardship Program for the Director's consideration, 1 annual report and 4 annual program budgets. Staff are recommending approval of Ultimed's 2021 annual report. You can read staff's analysis in the public notice linked to this agenda item. Staff are also recommending approval of MedProject's 2 annual program budgets for drugs and sharps, and conditional approval of Drug Take-Back Solutions Foundation's 2 annual program budgets for drugs and sharps. Analysis on those items are also linked to the public notice. Please subscribe to CalRecycle's Pharmaceutical and Sharps listserv to receive updates. Now turning to California's Carpet Stewardship Program. Carpet America Recovery Effort, or CARE, is the stewardship organization for California's carpet industry. CARE is required to submit annual reports to the department by September 1st of each year that meet the program requirements in statute, regulations, and CARE's approved plan. Here are some of the key metrics from CARE's 2021 annual report, which highlight CARE met its recycling rate and recyclability goals, increased program convenience and collection, reduced disposal, and increased the number of post-consumer products in the marketplace, post-consumer carpet products in the marketplace, to be more specific. Staff determined that CARE did not demonstrate that it met the required 2021 goals for recycled output, reuse, processor capacity, and 1 of the 3 convenience goals. Additionally, CARE's 2021 annual report did not include other required information, such as samples of educational materials. Analysis on this item is linked on the public notice. This item will now go to the director for her consideration. I'd also like to mention that CalRecycle is currently reviewing CARE's 2023 to 2027 stewardship plan for compliance with statutory and regulatory requirements. A decision of approval, conditional approval, or disapproval must be made by November 21st, 2022. Next steps, including how to provide comments on staff's analysis of CARE's 2023 to 2027 plan prior to CalRecycle's decision, will be communicated through CalRecycle's Carpet Stewardship webpage and listserv, as well as November's monthly public meeting agenda. And there will be opportunity to provide public comment at that meeting if you would like.
Thank you, Zoe. California's cities and counties are responsible for implementing local programs to use less, recycle more, and meet state requirements to achieve our shared climate and circular economy goals. CalRecycle is responsible for overseeing how well jurisdictions are implementing these programs. CalRecycle staff does this by conducting site visits, analyzing documentation, and through visits and reviews to jurisdictions' annual reports, which include disposal information and self-assessments of their programs. The department also has the authority to conduct anytime reviews to make sure cities and counties are in compliance with mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory commercial organics recycling requirements. Deputy Director Zoe Heller has the results of CalRecycle's latest local compliance reviews.
California law requires jurisdictions to implement mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory commercial organics recycling programs. Programs must ensure businesses that generate the statutory levels of waste have recycling service or a waiver in place. CalRecycle must review the local jurisdiction's actions to implement its program for good faith effort based on express statutory factors, including, importantly, the number of businesses complying with AB 341 and AB 1826. One benchmark is clear: all businesses generating statutory levels of waste must have service or a waiver. Given that organic waste disposal has more than doubled rather than halved since 2014, and the majority of California's waste originates from commercial sources, it's time for additional measures beyond monitoring and outreach, which have not proven sufficient to achieve compliance and to get those organics out of landfill. CalRecycle is working with jurisdictions to step up their efforts to account for businesses that are, by law, required to have recycling services or a local waiver. For those jurisdictions that have regulated businesses not complying, CalRecycle is moving them farther down the path of enforcement to ensure compliance. While most jurisdictions are implementing these programs to cut climate emissions and landfill disposal, CalRecycle identified program gaps for 6 communities listed in this agenda item. They are implementing portions of the programs, but we're still seeing levels of noncompliance and a failure to demonstrate sufficient efforts to make sure all regulated commercial businesses have recycling service or a waiver. You can find a summary of identified program gaps linked to today's agenda, as well as the jurisdiction's plans to address those gaps. CalRecycle will work closely with these local programs over the next 6 months. If staff finds inadequate progress to implement the plans submitted to CalRecycle or address the mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory commercial organics recycling gaps, then CalRecycle's jurisdiction and agency compliance and enforcement branch will be notified that the jurisdiction shall be prioritized for an evaluation. This item is delegated to me for signing. And quickly, I do want to thank the many jurisdictions that are working with us through this process and acknowledge that we're seeing an increase in collection services across the state. This has been, a partnership, and we look forward to continued progress.
Thanks, Zoe. Moving on now to our pending solid waste and tire facilities permits. Check out this quick video to see how California facility standards help keep our communities safe.
Protecting the health of Californians and their land, food, water, and air is a big job. Local, state, and federal agencies play different roles to enforce public health and environmental safety standards. In California, solid waste local enforcement agencies process applications, issue, and enforce permits for solid waste facilities. These include landfills, transfer stations, compost facilities, or similar operations. CalRecycle must verify permits are consistent with state requirements. Permits can only address areas within the authority of local enforcement agencies and CalRecycle. Check out the link below for more detailed information. Emergency waivers allow temporary changes to solid waste permit requirements in response to local or state disasters. Local enforcement agencies may approve the waivers, which are good for up to 120 days and may be extended. CalRecycle must review approved waivers and can condition, limit, suspend, or terminate them. Check out the link for more detailed information. For waste tire facilities, CalRecycle processes applications, issues, and enforces waste tire permits. These include requirements to make sure tires are stored and processed in a way that reduces potential threats from fire and disease-carrying vectors like mosquitoes. Check out the link for more detailed information.
CalRecycle is committed to protecting public health and safety by ensuring that California's waste regulations are followed. Paulina Lawrence joins us now with a statewide update on facility permits.
Thank you, Maria. First off, I'll start with those solid waste facility permit action items that were concurred on or issued by the department since last month's public meeting. The department concurred on September 30th, 2022, a new solid waste facilities permit for Recology, Sonoma, Marin. The facility is located at 2543 Petaluma Boulevard in Sonoma County. Permit action needed date was October 8th, 2022. Also on September 30th, 2022, the department concurred on a revised solid waste facilities permit for Athens Sun Valley Material Recovery Facility and Transfer Station. This facility is located at 11121 Pendleton Street in the city of Los Angeles. Permit action needed date was October 14th, 2022. Continuing on the agenda is Lincoln Tire West LLC, located at 7150 Patterson Pass Road, Unit C in Alameda County. This is a new major waste tire facility permit. Action is needed February 25th, 2023. Also continuing on the agenda is Agroman Lamora, Commercial Organics Processing Operations. This facility is located at South Terminus of Edwards Ranch Road in Ventura County. This is a new solid waste facilities permit. Action is needed November 7th, 2022. Additionally, Badlands Sanitary Landfill, located at 31125 Ironwood Road in Moreno Valley. This is in Riverside County. This is a revised solid waste facilities permit. Action is needed November 13th, 2022. And then also continuing on the on the agenda is Certified Blue Recycling, located at 2075 Williams Street in Alameda County. This is a new solid waste facilities permit. Action is needed November 14th, 2022. Now, new to the agenda, but not on this particular agenda, is Recology Yuba Sutter Integrated Waste Management Recovery Facility, located at 3001 North Levy Road. This is in Marysville. This is in Yuba County. It's a revised solid waste facilities permit. Action is needed December 10th, 2022. Preliminary review of the permit package indicates the following proposed change: increase in the total permitted area from 7.1 acres to 41.86 acres, also updating the report of facility information. The department did receive 3 emergency waivers since the September public meeting. These, the first 2 are in Merced County. This is for Highway 59 landfill. On October 3rd, 2022, the Merced County Division of Environmental Health granted an emergency waiver of the permitted daily tonnage of 2,200 tons per day until January 31st, 2023, due to the emergency resulting from the Oak Fire. Additionally, in Merced County, Billy Wright disposal site was also granted by the Merced County Division of Environmental Health, otherwise the LEA, on October 3rd, 2022. This emergency waiver was for also the permitted daily tonnage of 1,500 tons per day until January 31st, 2023. This is also due to the emergency resulting from the Oak Fire. Lastly, for Placer County, the Western Regional Sanitary Landfill was on September 28th, 2022, the County of Placer Local Enforcement Agency granted an emergency waiver for the daily tonnage and vehicle count until January 26th, 2023, and this is due to the mosquito fire. Back to you, Maria.
Thank you, Paulina. You can find more information on any of today's agenda items. Just go to CalRecycle's homepage at calrecycle.ca.gov and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of our site for a link to the agenda and associated public notices. Now it's time for public comments. Our first question today comes from Kay Broom, who is a citizen. The comment and question states, I've been asking for information on your Twitter pages. Citizens have given me unhelpful responses. Your team doesn't man the page. So here's my question. With the new composting programs, it is claimed that composting reduces methane emissions. I simply don't understand why something would create less methane if it rots in my house or in compost versus rotting in a landfill. I understand compost is useful, but how does the location where the food rots change the methane released? I'm mold allergic. It's easy to put food in a compost container, but if I'm possibly harming my health, I want to know this is actually helping methane levels. I normally keep my bins covered with the trash bag folded over. There are teeny holes in the compost container I was given. Also, if I decide I don't want it, do you want me to just recycle? I try to reduce plastic waste. I will answer the first portion, the comment portion, and that's regarding our Twitter page. So it's very important to us that Californians feel heard and responded to. We do respond to our Twitter page, and we do have someone who's dedicated on social media. It appears that we haven't had any direct messages or direct comments about this issue on our Twitter page until this morning, and I've alerted someone to make sure they respond to that comment. Additionally, I've been told we are not monitoring anyone who's tagging us and responding, but I've directed my staff as a communications director to do that going forward.
Excellent, and we always appreciate the input, and if there is something that you feel like you would like more information about, this is a great place to ask for it, and we're happy to add that to our social media as well as our website. This is a question I actually get a lot of, so I kind of wanted to jump in on this. How are we fighting climate change by moving our organic waste from landfills to our green waste bins? So our green waste bins, when you put that banana peel, those chicken bones, that pizza box, watermelon rinds, when you put those in with your green waste, it then is taken to a different type of facility, and it ends up being recycled into something else. By composting the organic waste, the green waste, or by putting it through anaerobic digestion or co-digestion, depending on the plant, you are actually controlling the type of emissions, one, that are created, and two, are more easily captured. So we will be able to reduce our overall methane emissions significantly when we reach that 75% reduction. So what our goal in statute in the law is to remove 75% of the organic waste that we put in landfills and then put it through a form of recycling, anaerobic digestion, co-digestion, compost. These are all forms of recycling that then go back to feeding the planet. Compost is one of my favorite things. I see one of our major actually several of our major compost advocates here in the auditorium with us today. Compost and healthy soil is one of my favorite things to do to fight climate change, because not only are we removing the methane emissions that is creating climate emissions, very potent climate emissions, we're also feeding our planet and feeding our agricultural plants, our trees, our parks, which means that they retain water better, they fight pests on their own better, and they don't need as much fertilization. And so when that banana peel goes from your garbage can to your green waste bin, it is then being recycled into something else that doesn't generate that climate emission. I hope that answers the question. Zoe, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, Rachel, I think that was a great response. Well, actually, maybe one thing that I'll just add is, in the question, you mentioned that compost is useful, and just wanted to put a finer point on that. Not only is it useful, but compost application on soil is such an incredible tool for reducing greenhouse emissions. There's carbon capture associated with applying compost as we, grow more fruits and vegetables or plants utilizing that compost as a soil amendment. And also it helps retain water in the soil. So there's incredible benefit not only to the removing this organic waste from landfill, but creating this recycled organic waste product, this compost as a soil amendment to even move our greenhouse gas reduction goals further to the finish line.
I do. I always forget that. It also sequesters carbon. Compost is amazing. It not only will we not be creating those climate emissions, we will actually be removing climate emissions from the atmosphere when we create the compost. So it is I always say it's not a 2 for or a 3 for, it's a 4 or 5 for what we get out of organic waste recycling. It's a really exciting opportunity here in California as we implement our SB 1383 mandates. We see this as an opportunity to really have California lead on climate emissions reductions.
I also like to say that that compost is the climate superfood, a superfood for the soil, really, and so it helps our climate issues in a number of ways, and also provides more nutrients to the plants. The last part of this question, I just wanted to respond to about recycling. If you're not using your bin, what I'd love to do is direct you to the iRecycleSmart.com page. There you'll find your local listings. You can look up your city or unincorporated county and find the link to your local program, and you can find out if anything that you want to recycle is recyclable there. So it looks like a second question was the same question. Then the next question is, I live in Fallon, I'm sorry if I didn't say that correctly, a high desert community in Southern California, not quite rural enough or elevated enough to receive a waiver for SB 1383 compliance. Currently, more than 40% of the residents in our community service district self-haul waste and recycling to the county landfill. Our community service district has decided that compliance with SB 1383 requires a universal waste ordinance, such that all residents are required to sign up with a local waste contractor for disposal service of waste, recycling, and organics. However, they have delayed announcing the details because this ordinance is going to be very unpopular in the community. I am personally opposed to this for several reasons. I strive to live a minimal lifestyle. I already compost organic waste for use in my orchard and gardens, and we live near a high foot traffic area for homeless people, and I'm concerned about people going through the trash. I expressed these concerns at the Community Service District Board meeting and was told to vote Republican because of the Democrats are forcing this issue on us. So the CSD stated they were merely complying. Additionally, this person says they opposed SB 1383. Rather, they oppose the use of compliance with these regulations to force everyone into mandatory waste service. They state they read the CalRecycle regulations regarding SB 1383 compliance and hope to receive clarification on how these regulations view residential self-haul. They state that they see the regulations requiring everyone to receive 3 bins, and there is no specific requirement opposing individual residents from continuing to self-haul their waste and receiving a waiver to continue home composting. Is this something CalRecycle has addressed or has assisted other municipalities in coming up with residential self-hauling standards for compliance with SB 1383?
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for the comment. And again, really appreciate the community engagement and individual engagement of our community members in the CalRecycle monthly meeting. I think this is really highlights the importance of these local programs. So these programs are implemented at the local level like other waste and recycling programs, and would really, again, encourage more engagement of this individual with their community services district and their local representation as they determine how to implement the 1383 requirements. But to answer the ultimate question of how CalRecycle has engaged, yes, we are very much working with each and every local jurisdiction on the unique challenges and concerns around implementation of 1383. And so I don't know about this specific community services district, but each local jurisdiction has a member of the CalRecycle local assistance staff designated for them to reach out to and bring specific challenges to help with implementation. And so we really see 1383 and our climate imperative here as a partnership with our local governments across the state of California. And I think what I would hope is that this individual would ask their community services district representatives and their local representatives to engage directly with CalRecycle's local assistance staff to figure out how to implement with and integrate self-haul for those residents that are composting on their own property. That is definitely anticipated and in the regulations, and as a part of our regulations does allow for self-haul in specific cases. So my hope would be that the community services district and the local representation would engage with the local assistance staff to figure out how to accommodate residents who are self-hauling and composting on site.
Thank you, Rachel. The next question, we actually have two different people asking the same question. John Davis from the Mojave Desert and Mountain Recycling Authority and Ed Boisson from Boisson Consulting. And the request is just to repeat the CalRecycle's SB 343 webpage address, and that is calrecycle.ca.gov/WCS/recycling labels. That's calrecycle.ca.gov/WCS/recycling labels. And I'll have my staff work on getting a direct link on the homepage if it's not there already. Absolutely. Sure, we have someone in the gallery who's been waiting, so you can go ahead.
I'm not in a hurry. You can keep going. Good morning, Nick Lapis with Californians Against Waste. I have 3 questions about implementation of various bills. So in just kind of random order, on AB 1201 implementation, the compostable labeling, there are a couple requirements on CalRecycle that are listed as may. And I was wondering if you've had a chance to discuss internally what your process is for deciding when and if you're going to implement them. So specifically, the third-party certification kicks in if CalRecycle adopts a third-party certifier. And it says that manufacturers get a year after the adoption to meet those requirements, and it has to be no sooner than 2024. So that means that the soonest we could implement that, or the soonest you could adopt a certifier, would be end of this year. But there's no real end date. So wondering what the process is for adopting certifiers. And then similarly, 1201 gives you authority to issue guidelines on what it means to not use confusing pigmentation or labeling. And I was wondering what the process is for issuing those guidelines.
Well, I really appreciate it. Again, Nick, thank you so much for coming to the public meeting and for your engagement on this. So you will start to see, and that's why we raised this today as Aaron went through all of the list of bills, you will start to see listed on our agendas in the public meeting, as well as individualized separate public meetings on implementation of all of this legislation. So our staff now is going through all of the legislation, 1201 included, and figuring out what each of those, what the implications of those actions would be. And then as we start to implement, we will very much have public meetings associated with either through the monthly public meeting or individualized public meetings on each of the actions that we're going to take or propose to take. So this very much, and again, I want to highlight this, with the legislation that has passed over the last couple of years, not just this year is a banner year, but over the last couple of years relating to solid waste management, recycling, et cetera, we are evolving into a circular economy here in California, and that is a partnership and a cultural change between the state, local governments, our federal partners, and then all of our residents here in the state of California. And I look to you in the NGO community as really being representatives and stakeholders of the residents here in California. So we have been really talking about how do we develop a public process so as we are implementing each of these pieces of legislation that public engagement is maximized because these are huge evolutionary pieces. Any one of these pieces of legislation would have been a huge change in how we look at and manage our solid waste in California. But in totality, they are developing an entire new system for the state of California. And so for us here at CalRecycle, the public engagement component will be absolutely critical to making sure that this is something that works for our residents and our stakeholders as well. So again, as we embark on January 1st, look after January 1st for some calendars for some public engagement on all of this legislation.
Just a minor note that 1201 was passed last year.
Last year? Oh, shoot.
Maybe go on to a couple other questions. One that's kind of tricky on 1985 implementation. So that's the procurement bill. So it delays, and we were co-sponsors of that bill, it delays the procurement mandate on jurisdictions, but it technically doesn't go into effect until January 1st because of any statute. Some people have been asking about what that means for this year and are local governments out of compliance for this year, or how does that work? And I genuinely didn't know what the answer to that question was. So I was hoping you could clarify.
So this is, with 1383 implementation, and SB 619 was a huge indication of the challenge the last couple of years has been for local governments with the new procurement requirements. And as we've said in implementation of 1383 from the very beginning, we're really not looking to catch local governments out of compliance. We're trying to figure out as a state how we all get into compliance. So it is not our intention to be out looking over the next 2 months for jurisdictions out of compliance with the procurement requirements. What we are looking for is how do we get everybody into compliance? And even if we were to go out and be looking for local jurisdictions out of compliance in the next 2 months, what that would key is an enforcement action that would put them on a corrective action plan to get into compliance. So it doesn't really make sense for CalRecycle to be looking right now at enforcing against the procurement requirements. And so I think our local governments can be well assured that as they are building out their capacity plans, as they're building out their implementation plans, that compliance with 1985 is what we're going to be looking for, not the current requirements that are on the book.
I think it'd be really helpful if you all could send an email with that clarification, maybe at least to the local government listserv you have, because I think it's just, that seemed like the obvious answer, but I think it'd be helpful if it were in writing somewhere.
In writing somewhere. So I think, again, as local governments have these questions, I really do want to encourage all of our local government representatives to be reaching out to their local assistants, representatives here at CalRecycle. But note taken. Thank you so much for that.
And then final question about the commission and when our next meeting is going to be.
Appreciate that, Nick. We are looking again with all of the recent legislation that was passed. What I would like to do, or what we've been discussing here internally, is having some very direct questions that we would put before the commission, and then having the commission membership reflect the specific questions that we were looking to. So I think, obviously SB 54 was a major piece of legislation that passed this year, 343 last year, 1013 this year, and looking at the specific recycling statutes that we've passed, and then trying to figure out how the commission can help with that implementation. And answering some key questions that we're going to have. So we're looking at all of the totality of legislation that's passed in the last couple of years, and then putting together the membership. As you know, the membership will change on the commission, specifically putting membership on together for the commission to answer some of those key questions.
Is there a rough estimate of timeline?
I'm hoping around the beginning of the year, having the first meeting after January 1st.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick.
So I'd like to.
Yeah, Nick, and thank you for your question on 1201. And just quickly to provide a couple updates, we are looking internally right now as to how we can get that study done, because that's the first thing on our list as far as ensuring we're implementing correctly, so or implementing in general. So we're working towards that, and we'll have some updates in the coming months on what our strategy is there. And as for the maze, I think maybe we should meet to discuss them. I think Rachel was made a very good point in that there's a lot of new legislation, and all of these different laws have relationships with one another. So they're, without getting into details, there's relationships between some of the maze and 1201 and our requirements under 54. So as part of our public stakeholder process and part of the conversations that we'll be having around compostability, biodegradability, recyclability, et cetera, we'll want to look at all of these different, all the language in these statutes, these various statutes, and identify how they kind of play off each other and what needs to be done for us to meet those statutory goals.
I appreciate that, and you guys do not have an easy job, and I don't envy you. I feel like sometimes we have the easy job of just saying how we want the world to be, and then you guys have to figure out the details. I did just want to note that I don't think you need to do actual regulations for either the guidelines or for adopting third-party certifiers. And so to the extent that you're looking at your regulatory calendar, I don't think there is a formal regulatory requirement there.
That's really helpful. And you know what, after this, we'll go back and take a look at the statutory change to figure out what that is. And then let's follow up after maybe next week and talk about specifically where we are in the process. I know the study, like everything else, is taking longer, just with closures of facilities and other types of things. But I think this is really critically important. Sorry, I wasn't associating the bill number with the conversation that we've been having this year around compostability. This is really critically important for both the implementation of 1383, the state procurement requirements on 1335, and then as we move forward with the truth in labeling and some of our new recycling laws, this study is critically important, and I do think that we've taken a couple of pivots in the last couple of months as we were watching what was happening on the legislation to say, okay, how do we put all of these pieces together? And that is, I appreciate the note that the job in front of us is challenging, but it is a challenge that California has been waiting for us to embark on, and we're really excited about this. But what we want to do is make sure that all of the different statutory changes, that we're aligning them to maximize the benefit. And I think that's where 1201 got a little bit of a hiccup over the summer, because some of the legislation that we did pass this year does have an effect on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm dominating the microphone.
No, this is a good conversation.
I think that's definitely right. And I mean, we also passed 1046, which requires all bags to be, produce bags to be paper or compostable as defined in 1201. And then, SB 54 defines recyclable or compostable as defined in 1201. And so that third-party certification is going to be incredibly important.
Critically important. It's so funny that you bring this up today, because I was thinking about this morning. I read an article, I can't remember in which publication, specifically around the passage of 1046, and was having that exact thought about, okay, so what do we need to do to support the retailers and the grocers on getting the right types of products? And you're exactly right, getting a third-party certifier or making some sort of determination in 1201 will be really critically important. So appreciate you bringing that up today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Evan is also standing.
Yes, I see that. Good morning, Evan.
Good morning, Evan Edgar Associates.
Oh, sorry.
Good morning, Evan Edgar Associates. Compost is my life, and it's a superfood for my soul too. So thanks for recognizing compost, because it's great stuff. I've been working with the Little Hoover Commission on rate increases. Same information I'm giving them, I want to provide today as well, with regards to the typical program cost for 1383 for any collection program is about 75% on the collection and 25% on the facilities. So all the collection of the carts and trucks are 75%. The processing, composting, disposal is about 25%. That's a rule of thumb, and that's typical. And we're truly a circular economy now. We're not going towards a circular economy. We are the circular economy with organics collection. That's happening today, and we want to support that. And it's the most cost-effective program under cap and trade. The last report came out that we're doing this for every, all the money invested with a grant program is about $50 per ton to do compost and anaerobic digestion. The reason being because we're building on existing systems. We're building on existing collection, existing facilities, co-location. We put the gas right back into the truck. So it's a beautiful, elegant solution that we've been committed to and want to continue to do. What we're seeing on the rate impacts that, asked by the Little Hoover Commission, we're seeing about 30% increase on commercial because they haven't had that many programs, about 20% on residential. And it's working out to be about $10 per month. Now you can choose to do Paramount Plus or Hulu for $10 a month. You can stream in whatever garbage you want, but we're actually taking the organics out, and that's worth $10 a month. I believe California can absorb this. We link it to climate change. It's not just another recycling law. There's lots. I saw a list of 8 different recycling laws. This is a climate change bill. We're linking it and I go from city councils and planning commissions and throughout the state getting permits, is that we link it to climate change in their own climate action plan, and they get it. It's a value proposition to spend $10 a month in order to divert your organics. What's going on in this room next week on Thursday, CARB is meeting, and it's gonna be a packed house, and we lobby CARB hard. Today we only have a few people, but when we work at CARB, we have a whole coalition of folks, and they're gonna be adopting the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule, which will be accelerating the phase-in of ZEVs, heavy-duty, zero-emission vehicles. And they're gonna do it, regardless of all the lobbying, the coalition building, everything we're doing, full steam ahead. And that is definitely gonna disrupt the circular economy we have today with in-state RNG fueling the trucks. We're going towards a global linear economy, really disruptive, and you know what? We're gonna mine the planet. There was a slide up there about not mining the planet. We are mining the planet to get all the rare earth minerals from the lithium and the cobalt without any end-of-life recycling. When you do heavy-duty ZEVs, it's about half the payload. They call it a duty cycle. You get 8 tons of load of organics. With all those heavy batteries, you get 4. That's half the duty cycle, so you need twice as many trucks. To buy an RNG truck with a CNG engine, near zero NOx, that's affordable. To buy a ZEV, twice as expensive. So you got half the duty cycle, twice the cost, that's 4 times the cost. Remember, collection is 75% of the program, and facilities only 25%. So basically, I think we're going to be doubling the garbage cost at the same time for the ZEV heavy duty. I think California absorbed 10%, $10 a month, but to do another $40, $50 a month at the same time we're doing 1383, we'll send a wrong message at the wrong time. It's taste expensive, less filling, because we only get 4 tons of load. And when you invest in cap and trade dollar on it, the metrics is about $1,000 to $3,000 per ton to implement ZEV program. Compost and AD, $50 to $55 a ton. That's why we're excited to see more money being put into the grant program. So congratulate CalRecycle on rolling out all the great grant programs going on for community compost, for pilot programs, for infrastructure. We need it. It buys it down, and it's very cost effective. We work with all people within industry. CASA, the wastewater folks, they got a $20 million a couple months ago. Very cost effective. They're not on pipeline either. They use it on site, or they use it to fuel vehicles with in-state RNG. SWANA, the landfill gas guys, they don't have any pipeline any nearby, but they can set up fueling stations and use it at their facilities. And I'm the urban cowboy guy, representing the solid waste sector for compost and AD. And we're in coalition working CARB every day. So we don't come here to appeal to you guys that lobby CARB. That's what we do, and we're losing that battle. There's enough RNG being developed right now with all the good grants from CASA to what you guys are doing. There'd be about 100 million diesel gallon equivalents in production by 2025, which can fuel the entire refuse fleet. And the carbon intensity, the average of it is minus 100. Now, ZEVs, doing the math on zero-emission vehicles on a life cycle basis, and even the Environmental Justice Committee is saying, let's do life cycle analysis on pesticides, which is great because compost is so much better than pesticides and fertilizer. But to do it on ZEVs, using European models is about 62 to 90. Now, CNG is at 88, diesel's at 100 for grams of CO2 megajoule. So that's the benchmark pricing. So we have working on 100 million gallons of DGE by 2025, minus 100 that will dovetail into the refuse fleet. So, and plus, CalRecycle, working with the local jurisdictions, have an RNG procurement policy. And we can't put it in the pipeline to send it to some industrial use in a Modesto tomato plant. That's what CARB is saying, put it in a pipeline and send it to industrial uses. We put it in the tank in order to do the same, Back to the Future Part 2, the same truck that collects organics will be using organics within 30 days. And that's a harmonic fit. So we are definitely lobbying CARB hard. And what I do next, because we're going to lose that battle, because people don't see the light of the circular economy that we're doing now to a global linear economy, we're going to be asking for a refuse fleet carve out. So we need a carve out for the refuse fleet, so we'll be promoting that. And the carve out will be in-state RNG use, near zero NOx engines, and we look for your support. Beyond the silos, we have a lot of silos up here, from CARB and CalEPA and CalRecycle, and we want to promote the ongoing circular economy now versus some pipe dream or some type of ZEV electrification by 2045. We don't got time to wait for 2045 to bend the climate curve. The focus on short-lived climate pollutants now in the next 10 years, not upon some type of mining the earth policy without any type of controls. Next year, we'll be sponsoring a bill, I call it the ZEV Battery Directive. We'll start in California, we'll go nationwide, and it's based upon exactly what the European Union did. They adopted it in March 2020. Plus, CalEPA got a report from a Dolly bill from 3 years ago on ZEV car batteries about end of life. Just read your own report from CalEPA about sourcing material from the kids in the Congo for environmental destruction in South America on lithium mining. So you have social and environmental costs to mining the earth for a global linear economy that will disrupt our circular economy. So with this bill next year, we do three things. One, we're going to source it responsibly, and everybody should support that. But I'm in front of the Environmental Justice Committee at CARB for the last 8 months, and I get crickets. I give them information from the UN, Amnesty International, CalEPA, real data about impacting real people in these countries. Not a word. This is Environmental Justice Committee, and what I'm asking for environmental justice for all, and nobody wants to step up to discuss that. So that's why we got to sponsor a bill next year, because I think that's a no-brainer. That crickets. Second thing is carbon intensity life cycle. That's the one thing that EJAC stepped up on to the report to the scoping plan, which would be adopted by the end of the year. They talk about carbon intensity, the life cycle, and the math I'm doing is about 62 to 90. So it's not zero emission vehicles. Zero emission vehicles are not zero, not at all. They're impacting other communities with leakage of the carbon footprint to other nations, and that's wrong. The scoping plan says don't do leakage. We got leakage every place. The cows are leaving California even. All types of things are going on with shifting our carbon footprint to other nations, and the scoping plan says you shouldn't do it. They do it anyway, so I'm proud of EJAC to recognize that we do life cycles on batteries because they're 62 to 90 on a carbon scale. I'm minus 100 in the circular economy. It should be a no-brainer, but we have to fight hard for this regardless. It's not an easy job here, there, or the industry that we're putting millions of dollars on the line to build these facilities. And the third thing, which should be endorsed by CalRecycle, is end-of-life battery. The Dolly report from CalEPA spells it all out. It's all there for us. So I would hope CalRecycle would support end-of-life recycling for ZEV batteries, because a mine is a terrible thing to waste. We don't have to mine the world when we can mine a landfill and feed a tank with in-state RNG at minus 100. I heard circular economy about 30 times in this presentation today. I'm it. We're doing it every day with RNG and organics. Do not disrupt us for a ZEV economy. Thank you.
Evan, thank you so much, as usual, for your thoughtful comments. We always appreciate your participation. And we do, as you also heard us acknowledge, the importance of the composting industry and what's been built here in California, and really the necessary expansion of the composting industry across the state of California, and doing it in a way that it really just does truly serve California communities, and been a long proponent of managing our waste stream here in the state of California, and doing it in a way that is responsible and is actually a resource for our community. So that as we build the circular economy, we'll make it 31 times. As we build it, we are looking at how do we do it without creating new environmental harms, and to truly bring that benefit back to the communities of the state of California. So thank you for your comments.
And I was going to say there's also a similar question from Charles Chuck White from Manette, Phelps, and Phillips, and he's just asking about the status of CalRecycle's interaction with CARB to maintain the production of RNG from organic waste. And he states that it seems the focus of CARB appears to be electrification to the potential detriment of RNG to produce LCFS fuel. So he also asked the same question for CARB's ACC2 regulation for automotive fuel, and he makes a statement about CARB's fleet rulemakings and asks CalRecycle to strongly support the production of RNG for vehicle fuel under LCFS.
So CalRecycle staff is constantly engaging with CARB staff. We are in regular meetings and conversations with them and advising on the methane and short-lived climate pollutant components of the scoping plan. And as the board, as the Air Resources Board does their deliberations and makes their decisions on all of the components of not only the scoping plan, but their other regulatory mandates, we stand by to advise and give our perspective on those. Secretary Garcia Gonzalez is also engaged in this issue, and I know Chairwoman Leanne Randolph is very thoughtful and thinking about these issues. So I continue to encourage our stakeholders that have overlap between our organics regulations and our organics law implementation and the Air Resources Board's implementation of their mandates to continue to have those conversations with the board.
The next question was also, excuse me, regarding the, regarding two things. Sorry. One was about the commission, and sorry, it's Colleen Foster from the city of Oceanside. And so essentially she had asked about the status of the recycling commission, but then once Nick Galapis spoke, she said in lieu of Nick's comments, it would be helpful if CalRecycle is indeed choosing to not commence enforcement or take aggressive enforcement actions against cities, but rather support jurisdictional compliance passively. It would be helpful to hear this more directly from CalRecycle in writing and in person. Recently, cities are receiving notices of implementation gaps and communications from CalRecycle that enforcement is indeed the intent of SB 1383 at this point. Given the inadequacy of AB 1826, she goes on to say, and mandatory rollouts. We are hearing CalRecycle is looking for 100% compliance, even for cities that have robust organics programs and double-digit compliance numbers. The mixed messaging is very challenging and confusing to work with and understand, she states, as we all try and achieve compliance as best as possible. CalRecycle's help to address this mixed messaging would be appreciated.
So just to address Colleen's, one of Colleen's questions, there will be a letter that goes out shortly on implementation, and I think Nick's question was specifically around the procurement requirements, and those are requirements that just changed at the beginning of September for January 1st, actually. They haven't officially changed, but the legislation was signed at the beginning of September, so anything that was received prior to the signature of that law may have reflected the requirements of the procurement within local government's plans. But I do want to be really clear on this, and I know that this is somewhat uncomfortable for some of our jurisdictions. SB 1383 and meeting our climate mandates under SB 1383 is not doing the best that we can. There is no longer a good faith effort in the statute associated with the diversion requirements of the statute. Local jurisdictions must be in 100% compliance, and as a matter of fact, the requirements went into effect on January 1st of 2022. 100% compliance is expected. There are a lot of places where we are trying to work with jurisdictions to get to that compliance. This does need to be a partnership. Our primary focus is not coming out and issuing enforcement notices, violation notices, and penalties. Our primary focus is figuring out what are the challenges to getting to compliance, but I do want to be 100% clear on this point. The statute requires 100% compliance. It does not require a good faith effort. So we do have an expectation of 100% compliance. In recognition of the challenges of implementation of this statute, the legislature has passed 2 bills in the last 2 years to help jurisdictions get into compliance over an extended timeline, SB 619 for the 128 jurisdictions that applied and were granted SB 619 notice of intent to comply status. We are working with those jurisdictions to, over an extended timeline, to get into compliance with our organics recycling requirements. And then 1985, I'm usually so good, Nick knows this, I'm so good at bill numbers, and for some reason this year I just did, they're all interchangeable in my head. AB 1985, did I get that right? Passed this year to give an extended timeline for procurement requirements. And we will be looking at getting that tiered approach or that extended timeline for reaching the procurement requirements. We very much want this to be a partnership with our local jurisdictions and do this in a way that meets the needs of those specific communities, but it is 100% a requirement, not a voluntary program.
And then additionally, Colleen Foster from the city of Oceanside, after asking about the Recycling Commission, wanted to also know the status of the SB 54 Advisory Committee. Specifically, how will that be established and when?
So as I mentioned at the outset of the meeting today, SB 54 goes into effect, becomes law on January 1st. And after that date, we will set out a timeline for CalRecycle's actions of all of the requirements over it's a very short timeline, but the statute has a number of different requirements that we have to meet. So again, we can't form the advisory committee yet. This is not California law until January 1st. After January 1st, we will have a process by which stakeholders can participate in application to the Advisory Commission, as well as public meetings for stakeholder groups to participate in the implementation of the various activities within SB 54.
Thank you. The next question, 2 questions are from Jeff Dunleavy at Mings Resources East Bay. Can you clarify if the $73.3 million identified in AB 179 towards recycling infrastructure will be a one-time amount or an amount for 3 years totaling $210 million? When will specifics on the breakdown and availability of funds be presented to the public? There is a response. I don't know. Do you want me to answer it? There's a response that our subject matter expert.
Oh, hi, Amy. Yeah, that's great.
There's Amy.
Actually, I'd like to take this one. So, Jeff, thank you so much for your comment. The department is working through implementation of the overall budget for CalRecycle, and SB 179 had a number of new grants in it. Specifically, I think he was asking about the PMDP payments, or was he asking, Maria, about the grants overall? So CalRecycle is currently looking at the overall budget appropriation and devising a plan for how those dollars will be implemented. The statute did specify that no one technology of the 3 technologies listed could receive more than 50% of the funding. But as we are looking at how to build initial infrastructure expansions for the SB 1013, so that is the integration of wine and distilled spirits into the beverage container recycling program. We're looking at how can we expend those dollars in a way that helps with the program expansion while at the same time build out the infrastructure and integrate innovation into our existing program. So we are still working on those grant criteria, and as they are available, we will bring them to the public meeting and have a public process for implementation.
Okay, and the second question looks like it was the exact same question as the first one. So that's all for our public comments. If there were no more no more in the gallery, then we would just like to thank you so much for coming to our public meeting and participating today. We hope you enjoy the new format designed to make communication accessible, inclusive, and as relevant as possible. We welcome your feedback through our public comment portal. Have a great rest of your morning and week, and we will see you next month. Thank you.